committee meeting to order. First item is to check to see if we have a quorum, and I determined we do have a quorum. So I want to welcome everyone here. We have a wonderful audience today, and so at a 1,000% increase from some of our previous meetings. So I do thank you for all being here. I know we have representatives from the Castle Hills Women's Club here, Judy Crawford and Nancy? Joanne. I so apologize. Okay, and Joanne is here to provide us some insight, and hopefully we can collaborate going forward. We'll talk about the agenda. You know, we have Noe Mahoney, okay, pleasure from your reporters. So thank you for attending. And then we have some other, I can't even see this stuff, we have some other members here too, or some other audience participants here too? Residents? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Bernard, your family? Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. So we have refreshments in the back, so please feel free to have some too. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You gotta eat them up. If you don't, we'll have to throw them out. No, anyway, there's kolaches, donuts, cookies.
All sorts of good stuff that we don't need, but we enjoy. Yeah. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on the agenda. The second item of business is discussion and action on meeting minutes from the January 12th and January 29th meeting. I'd like to go ahead and take those two items separately if we may. They do have some recommendations. But first of all, go ahead and give a motion to discuss the January 12th, 2019 meeting. Okay, all right.
I'll move that we approve the January 12th, January 19th meeting minutes.
I second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, I'd like to go ahead and make a recommendation. Recommendation to go ahead and modify it. The January 12th meeting, I was not able to attend it. It does list here that I did attend. And so I was, I believe...
January 19th.
Correction, what that says here, January 12th meeting.
Oh, the one that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
I was here until the 12th item, so I don't think that you had a quorum at that point.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And so I hope it was considered an excused absence at that meeting.
It was. That was what I got. Both of us had excused absences.
Okay, so I would ask that be amended that I did not attend the January 12th meeting.
Who was here?
Mr. Joyce, Mr. Sanderson, I believe you were 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah.
On the 19th, yes.
On the 12th.
On the 12th, I was not.
Yes, right. No, that's right, correct.
You're right.
It was just me.
It was just Mr. Joyce and Mr. McCormick that were here on the 12th. So with that amendment to the minutes, all in favor? Okay, approved. Thank you. Let's discuss the January 29th meeting. Is there any items anybody want to go over on that? January 19th meeting. Jack?
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the items? Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, agenda number 3, report from Mark Sylvie regarding rider operations, including possible discussion and action. And you must be Margaret.
I am.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yes, I'm Margaret Sylvia. I've lived in Castle Hills for about 10 years. I've been a librarian for about 40 years. I've worked at the Texas A&M University libraries, the UT libraries, and at St. Mary's here in San Antonio. I have a master's degree in library and information science and a master's degree in psychology. I have to
Margaret, may I interrupt you? Can you go ahead and turn with the mic? The mic is more of a direct on mic.
Okay.
And we are broadcasting, so.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat that, or are we?
I think we're fine.
Okay. So I guess I have a question first about what your intent is for a library in Castle Hills, and then I'll go ahead and tell you what I think about where we are right now.
Let me ask, are you familiar with the history of the donation of the books?
All I know is that there are a number of books over here, and I did come over a couple of weeks ago to take a look at what is there right now.
Well, we had I guess how the long about is we had a very generous donation from a citizen of the city that passed away, I believe, last year, and he had quite a collection. I'm trying to recall, do you want to mention the individual? Or? Okay, we have quite a collection. I think other people have also given to this to the library, and then Judy was involved in part of the library process, but not necessarily this one. I mean, we've had
Not this one.
Yeah, it was.
I did a little light.
Right, the little library, right. So we've had
Free library, yes, I'm familiar with that as well.
we have these kind of things over in the city for the benefit of the citizens. But so what we're wanting to do is just establish a very simple system where it's an honor system. People can come and take a book, and maybe you can bring a book back also in here. I don't believe we're looking for to control it to any huge degree. And again, it's an honor system. Just people want to take advantage of all these wonderful books that we've been able that we get into the city. And so Skip, I think that's some more ideas than I do.
We had these books divided up into 2 locations, and we thought this would be the best way to use it, is put them all in one place where we can make an exchange library out of it. We know that we're within a couple of miles of three branch libraries from the San Antonio Library. And the San Antonio Library has an extensive electronic connection and access to lots more. And so we never really seen any point in trying to compete with that. It looked like it would be counterproductive. But a library was in the master plan, and Mr. Glenn and Scott put together for the city. And I've used it, Sherry has used it, and we take books home and read them and bring them back, and it works out fine for us. Whether it's useful for the city at large is a whole other question, because this room is not open every day of the week. I mean, it's open during work hours, Monday through Friday, and then when there's a meeting like this, or when their passport office is working on Saturday, this part is open. That's not something that you can look at on a regular schedule. So that is a count against a library, because it needs to be available when the citizens want to come use it. We don't have an extensive collection of books. These are all from one person, and so they are one person's view of what they wanted to read at the time, and not all of them are anywhere near current books. Some of the technical books are more than 10 years old, and that makes them pretty much obsolete. Some of the art books are still quite good, and the antique books are probably still good, although the prices are way out of date. But the paperbacks, they're not going to go out of date for the most part. There's some good ones from Michigan on down. But whether there is enough there for us to bother with an exchange library is the question. I don't propose that we're going to hire a full-time or part-time librarian. I don't propose that we're going to set up a huge Library of Congress numbering system, or even a Dewey Decimal system. I think that the idea of arranging the books would probably be something on the order of fiction alphabetically by author, and the other stuff in large categories, probably by author, I guess, or maybe by subject, I don't know. But
You sound like you have a good grasp of what is needed.
well, that was the idea. Whether it's practical or not, I don't know. I have no experience in library science. I've never run an exchange library. Used lots of them, but I used to have cards in all the libraries in town, including the university libraries, but I don't anymore. So, what's your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation would be that there are a lot of books over there that probably are not as useful as they might be, given the current state of the world. So I would recommend some weeding, and that's something that every library does.
Do you think if we weeded out the obsolete and the useless books, or books that apparently don't have much interest anymore, and maybe Do you think there's enough interest in something like this that people would bring in their own books just to get them out of the shelf?
Well, if that is the thing that you're aiming for, you will have to have somebody in charge of taking in those books and arranging them and weeding out the things again that people don't use. So a library is not just a thing that you plunk down. It is a living thing, and somebody has to take care of it. Even if you're not going to check books out, even if you're not going to organize in a real orderly fashion. Again, we're thinking about having donations. Well, yeah, somebody has to unpack those boxes of donations.
Sure. And we anticipate that volunteers would do that, providing there's interest in the community. If there's not interest in the community, then the best thing to do is to find the most useful place to donate the books or sell them, get rid of them, and clear them out of here.
I'm in total agreement with that. One of the first things that you would want to do when you think about having a library is to create a needs assessment in the community and find out, is there a need? There's always a need for something, but you need to find out what the needs are, and if you can meet those needs in the most cost-effective manner. You're right, we're within a few miles of 2 or 3 branch libraries of SAPL. There's also a completely online library that Bear County runs called Bibliotech, and I was on the advisory council that created that library.
And of course, for the classics, there's the Guggenheim website and others that are similar, where you get free books.
Right, there are also places online where you can get free books. The thing where there's normally a need for paper books is children's literature. They usually don't have their own electronic access to anything, and maybe it's not a thing that you want to let a child run around with expensive electronics. So yeah, paper books, as a librarian, I'm sad to see them go, but they are going. Except probably for the area of children's literature. Although it is true that there is still a large sale of paper books. They're not all gone, and they will never all be all gone. So I guess my advice, given what I've heard here today and what my thinking is I would weed out probably 80% of what is in this area right now. There is an online organization called Better World Books that will sell those for you. They'll even pay for shipping, and shipping is always the most expensive thing. So you might want to contact them, and you can just Google it, Better World Books. It's something like betterworldbooks.org or .com, I've forgotten. But it's an organization that I use when I'm meeting in my library. And we send them the books, and they sell them. And you get a small percentage of the profits. They also donate a percentage of the profits to literacy organizations. And you can pick the organization that you want to support, or they will support various organizations in your name.
Could you repeat the name again?
Better World Books.
Better World, okay.
Better World Books. Yes, you can look it up right now. You can see them. One thing that you might, in case we don't want to have this ongoing, if you can't find volunteers, and you don't want to have an ongoing, incoming and outgoing reading project, Better World Books will set up, it's kind of like it's a big metal box, similar to a big library return box, and people can put their books in there, and they'll sell them, and you can get a percentage of that profit. You never even need to touch the books. You let them know when the box is full, and they'll come pick it up. So that's one thing that you do, if you're just interested in recycling paper books in that way. I don't know, do you have any other questions?
You said a moment ago that if I understood right, you said 80% of what we have over there we need to weed out?
That's what I would do.
80% of it?
Quite likely.
Did you take an accounting what kind of books there are? Do we have a percentage of like the number of children's books? Because it sounds like to me that children's books would probably be the category of the highest value here, with that, to at least us.
For this community, I think that's true.
You know, will they increase the number of families moving in? That it seems like that would be perhaps a logical target.
I think children's books, children's literature are the things that would be of highest value. In Castle Hills, I think the median income for households is about $112,000, and we have about 12% of our population that is at poverty level or below. So that is, it's not a large percentage, but it is. There are a lot of people that would be served by that. And a lot of those people are young people. So I think a lot of the adults probably would have access, online access to literature and job information and the kind of things that a public library would provide. So yeah, I think if you wanted to run a book exchange, it might be one that would be targeted more toward children's literature. But again, that is something the city would have to decide.
I can tell you in the little library, children's books are gone like that. The adult books, we'll get some switching out, but in the little library, the children's books go.
There we go. Yeah, that kind of answers that question. Yeah.
Of course, we're right by the school too, so that might be why they come right over.
Well, I'd like to support one statement that Ms. Sylvia made about the needs assessment. It seems to me before we spend a lot of energy and effort and time and everything, it's just somehow find a way to go to communities that do really want this. It's nice that it's a part of the master plan, but a lot of us didn't know that. But in any event, I think we need to some sort of assessment before we move forward.
Would it be appropriate to make this like a citizens to speak about things during city council meetings for perhaps one or two sessions to kind of see, to try to gauge what the level of interest would be?
So you're suggesting you're suggesting I have the actual council item and just have a councilman bring it up as a way to open it up for discussion?
I think at least it would allow us to be able to get some sort of direct feedback from the community at large. We might not be able to get as accurate as a result of we perhaps sent out direct mailings or something like that.
Right.
At least this would allow folks an opportunity to make some sort of informed opinion here. That way the leadership can make a decision based on at least what they can hear at that point.
I think the part it elevates it to a level where we get it addressed. I think that's what the thought process.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to do it, but I would also think of more grassroots stuff like next door, the website, stuff like that, where you can directly have people make comments.
Clyde, would it be appropriate for you to go ahead and actually generate a poll on next door to see if we can gauge some sort of interest in that as well too? Maybe a multi-pronged approach.
Another thought on that too is the mayor is famous for his polls, and so maybe you could task him with putting a poll out for an exchange library supported by the city, which is going to cost the taxpayers some money to support something like this. We just need to know that.
Well, actually, it doesn't seem that there's a whole lot of money involved. If we're taking book donations, we don't spend a lot of money on buying books.
Right, I'm saying from a support standpoint.
But there are places that will make grants for books that we're aware of that we saw just in our trading at the beginning of the week. So that's a possibility. The question is how to survey these people. Mr. Radford, do we have any regular contact with our citizens through mail or anything of that sort?
Nothing in particular where we surveyed in response for city services. I mean, it's something we can look at doing, but nothing we've done of late.
Yeah, it seems though that if we're going to do that, we got to look at anything that we think needs to be surveyed in addition to the library and try to get all of them at once rather than just do piecemeal surveys. What do you think?
I think it's possible. It should not be an issue and something that can be put out pretty quickly.
Is that something we need to go to the council and get approval for, or is that something that runs at least expense?
No, typically, I mean, a lot of cities put out surveys all the time about services, what they like or dislike. And that's something that could be done in my office. I mean, that's not an issue. It's a matter of just contacting the right people and making sure we have their contact information, whether that's by email or some other contact, but typically, or, I mean, something we could put on the website and direct people to take a survey as well.
Let me ask you.
Do you have any experience with surveys of that sort?
It's quite likely that some of that information might be available from the San Antonio Public Library. I know that the Cody branch, which is probably the closest branch to Castle Hills, is the busiest branch in the SAPL, and Westfall is not far behind, and that's probably our second closest branch.
Did you say was the busiest?
Cody, the one on Vance Jackson.
So here's perhaps
So we got nearby, we have the library up north of Bitters Road, just east of 281. We have the Jackson County Library and the Landville Library, which are the closest to us, and all of which have pretty decent collections and access to the whole library.
That's correct. And they're all quite busy branches, so the need is probably there for Castle Hills. And if there was a desire to start more than just an exchange library, I would advocate cooperating with the San Antonio Public Library rather than starting something independent. If the city cared to provide a location or something like that, they might be amenable. I certainly haven't contacted them about that, but I know libraries are a cooperative group. So they might be interested in doing something more central. They are building bridges further out as the city grows. But it's possible that they'd be interested in doing something even more centrally located.
Are you thinking about them maybe putting a branch here or something of that sort?
If there was a desire in the city to have a real library, it would be to the city's advantage to cooperate with the San Antonio Public rather than do something independent. Leon Valley does have an independent library that's separate from SAPL, but again, there's a lot of money involved. To start a public library, a real library, generally costs between $50 or $100. I think it's between $50 and $150 per capita. So you're talking about, for a city our size, between $200,000 and $600,000 a year. I don't think that's an investment for an independent library that the city's ready to make right now. However, to cooperate with San Antonio Public might be a lot cheaper.
Our problem is that the space we have available pretty much is what you see. We don't have a lot of extra space.
Oh, I understand that there's no city space. The libraries can be located in strip centers and so forth. If the city were to rent the space, it's not something that... Again, I'm not advocating that. I'm just throwing that out as an idea, depending on what the city wants to do.
a quick question, would we have any access to the elementary school library across the street? Would it be better for us potentially to go ahead and just give all of our children's books that we would collect to them with the proviso that the citizens could go and enjoy the collection? And then get rid of the 80% here and free the space us. I mean, would that be something that would be convenient or possible?
It's certainly something we could broach with NEISD.
You could, but there's a security...
Accessibility issue.
Getting into an elementary school for just anybody is not a thing. Even a high school or a middle school now.
Yeah, I'm forced to wear a little tag every time I go into Jackson Keller and that
I'm
sort of
not
stuff.
sure that that's the thing that they're going to be amenable to. It's one thing for them to let us use their outdoor playground, but to have people going in and out of school every day to go to the library,
Yeah, that's the problem.
I'm going to say that's probably not
Okay.
something they're going to
Do you have a comment?
Northeast did build a a high school that has a public library in it, but it was built to have these separate entrances so they do not enter the school.
Okay.
And that was a high school.
Well, I can see several problems, not just access, but control of the books, it would be another problem as well.
And they're not, if you're taking books that people are donating, those are not library bound, you know, they don't want non-sturdy books in a school library.
Right,
I mean, they just
paperbacks
don't.
don't really fly in a school library, because they're used dozens, hundreds of times, and they're gonna fall apart no matter what.
So may I ask you a question about, you mentioned about a community, like a community needs assessment. Do you mind detailing a little more your thoughts on what would be an appropriate community needs? And I know we brushed on it here, but is there anything specific that you think would be appropriate?
Well, the first thing that generally involves is looking at, and I did a little bit of this, looking at the census data to see the ages of the people that live here, the income, the education level, who lives where, is there multi-family housing, is it single-family housing? So there's a lot of information we can get just from census data. And again, looking at the public library usage that's near us, there's information you can get there. And we have to get it, I'd have to ask the public library for or someone, but I'm sure that they've got a lot of that data as well, because that's part of what they do, is the needs assessment whenever they're building new branches and remodeling branches. I mean, a survey to ask people what they need is nice, but as Netflix has learned, you can ask people what movies they want to see and what movies they like, and that's not what they're going to watch, and that's not what they really like. So Netflix has given up asking people what they like or what they want, and they go by what they use.
The San Antonio Public Library has the, is it wallpaper or?
Sure, San Antonio Public Library has a graphic that they've created, and it's called Library on Wall, I think, and it's just a giant wallpaper of some book covers, and they put QR codes on their book covers. So if you want to read a book on your phone or your tablet, you go up and take a picture of that QR code, and provided you have your San Antonio Public Library card, you can read that book. So it's just a convenient way to not have to search for a book. You just go, oh, I like the looks of that, and take a picture of it. And I know that they've been looking, in fact, they wanted to put one of them inside of my own St. Mary's library, and I went, yeah, that's okay. So we didn't do it, but I know that means they're looking for places to put their graphics. So we might want to put one up here in Castle Hills. It's not, I think it'd be a nice advertisement for everything, for the San Antonio Public Library and for literacy in the city.
Is there any other questions at this point?
Let me suggest that we invite, see if there's somebody here who's willing to work with Mr. Rapp and put together some sort of a survey. If he's willing to mail one out, there may be other items that he would like to survey. If Mr. Rapp is willing to do that, and somebody willing to work with him to put one together with regard to the library, that would be a help. Anybody have a particular interest?
We can also,
Uh-oh.
there's other means for, there's other means for sending out information, obviously we can do, I mean, of course, the website, next door, Facebook, we can put something in the reporter, those kind of things to see if there's any type of support from the community on any type of library exchange.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, I like the idea of utilizing, a mail order is relatively expensive, and so I think utilizing the reporter and some of the systems that we have in place would make sense. So yeah, thank you for stepping up for that. Obviously, you're going to look some people in too, so it's wonderful.
And we can, I mean, we're in the process of putting together the March reporter, so we can put a little section in the reporter and requiring if people are interested in assisting or they would like support of it for Castle Hills Library Exchange.
So I had a motion, you might want to second that.
I'll second.
Second.
Mhm. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I believe we discussed this item at this point thoroughly, unless we have any more discussion. So all in favor? All right, unanimous, thank you. Sylvia, thank you for your time and expertise and taking the time to share with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to. You're welcome back anytime, by the way.
You can always come help work on the library.
All 20%?
Okay, next item of business. Item number 4, discussion on a joint meeting with Castle Hills Community Organization representatives and members of the Women's Club regarding possible initiative on the Castle Hills Chamber of Commerce Business Forum and new resident welcome reception with discussion and possible action. We do have in attendance today Judy and Joanna with the Women's Club, and thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and start with, let's go first of all, I need a motion to discuss.
I'll move that we discuss the item under agenda item 4.
Okay, second? Okay, so discussion, Skip?
This came about because I was talking to Sherry about the newcomers reception. And at some time in the last few months, I had a conversation with Mr. Howell and other people about this newcomers reception and our local business community. We don't really have a chamber of commerce. We don't really have a business forum, but we do have 2 active groups in the city, the Women's Club and the Castle Hills Community Organization, who might be interested in being involved in something of this nature. I'm looking at the idea that if we had a newcomer reception on a regular basis, say every couple of months or so, it would be an opportunity for the business community to come in and set up their little displays, tables, menu samples, handouts, or whatever they've got. And it would allow the newcomers to know what businesses we have here in Castle Hills. And it would give those businesses the opportunity to solicit or inform, at least, the newcomers about their business and what they have to offer. We don't really have that right now. We have everybody in the world soliciting our citizens from every media outlet that you can find, but we don't really have any intimate interaction between our business community and our citizens. We have the opportunity to have these newcomers come in several times and to have present members or long-term residents here to talk to them about what they like and so forth about the community. So I see the newcomers reception as something that might be recurring over the first year or 2 that the citizen was a resident here, and an opportunity to come back and get further acquainted with the community, the government, the business community, and the other citizens. So that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, or at least that was the idea, that we might be able to improve our citizens' awareness of what's available within walking distance or right around the corner here in Castle Hills. And we might be able to let the businesses benefit from a better familiarity by our citizens of what they have to offer. And it's really a pretty simple idea. The question is whether or not there's any interest or support for something of that sort, or whether the business community would even consider supporting it. I really don't have the answer to that. We've made some efforts to contact some of the members of the business community, but they've been quite busy here lately. And so we don't have a representative from them here. We don't have anybody here from Castle Hills Community Organization. But I think both the Women's Club and Community Organization might have an interest in something of this sort. What's your initial reaction? Want to jump up?
Yeah.
Or give me a raspberry?
Do we want to go ahead and you guys want to have a conversation or you want to go ahead and speak right now too? And your thoughts on what we're looking for?
Conversation.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Ladies?
Currently, I am the community liaison with the Women's Club and City Hall.
I'm going to go ahead and ask her to move this over to this.
Sure.
Since we're being recorded.
Currently, I am the community liaison from the Women's Club, and in conjunction with City Hall staff and officials, we do have the red ribbon cutting at the request of the new businesses. Now, we work very closely with the permit office, so when Kit's form indicates to this new business, are you interested in a ribbon cutting? A number of them say yes, and obviously some say no. So from the onset, we're aware of those that would want to participate. Kit would send me this information, then I go ahead and contact either the owner or the manager of the business. And there's a little bit of lag time because oftentimes as a group, we meet between January and end in May, and then start up again in September to December, really, as the organization. It's hard to have a lot of interest during the summer, when there's a lot of other activities with family. So anyway, I give them dates that we're looking at between January and May, and they respond accordingly, and we select 2 dates. At this point, it has been on a Thursday at 10 to 11 with the 10:30 ribbon cutting. And that seems to work with the members of the Women's Club as well as City Hall, because we have the officials, the mayor, and the staff participate, police, firemen, and so on. I mean, it's a good representation in those cases. From time to time, we do have an evening opening, but it's primarily in the morning on a Thursday. At this time, that seems to be the time that the mayor has found to be the best for him. And so that's somewhat the communication. Coming up, we have New Image in April, and we have the next week we do have State Farm Insurance. And then coming up and communication with the Rapid Car Wash. So, we do, and in most cases, they're very hospitable. They provide refreshments. We provide the ribbon and the shears, and so it always works very easily, very effortlessly. And those that can come out. And we ask that businesses provide their staff, their friends, their clients as well, because it's a celebration, it's a grand opening. So it's worked very well, and as I said, not everyone is interested, and that's fine, it's up to them. But in working with City Hall and the Women's Club, it seems to work well at this point, unless there are maybe more ideas.
So this is the first time I've ever even heard about this. Is this something that we advertise like on our electronic signage, or do we put this out in like the Castle Hills Reporter, or something like that? If it's there, I guess I've missed it.
Ribbon cutting.
Yeah, the ribbon cuttings have been around for many years. There were some ribbon cuttings that were posted on Nextdoor. I don't know if the website's ever been utilized as of yet for that process, but it has come out. It's not as advertised as I think it would be good, but I have seen it in the past.
Certainly, this would be a good step, at least to get me, if businesses start seeing that there is some sort of good advantage of working with the city and that sort of thing, then I think it's a good first step. I would imagine they would be very friendly to us advertising their business for them. And so that would be, at least a good first step in this direction here. I guess I just wasn't even aware of it. I've only been here in the city for 5 years, and so this is something that's just not something I didn't even know even existed.
Is it possible to have something on the website, or is
Well, let me address that.
Yeah.
So the website is a little outdated and it needs some work, and we're due for an upgrade. And so we're taking the steps to get to the upgraded website. So I had a staff person over the last few weeks start evaluating, making sure that information and links work, those kind of things, because at the end of the day, when we get this upgrade, one of the features is a calendar feature. So it'll be able to populate all kinds of, whether it's meetings, ribbon cuttings, those kind of things. Because right now, the website isn't very helpful right now in that way. But the new one, and again, my previous city I came from, where we had just done one, it had a calendar component. So you could put in all kinds of information about future meetings, business activities, all those things. So that'll pop up. And so that's what we're looking at doing. And I'm hoping to get a date from Civic Plus here soon on when we're going to be able to get that upgrade done, and then we can launch it.
So Brian, so at this point, there is no firm date of when we're going to have an upgraded website?
No, I'm waiting to hear back when this is going to happen from them. So I'm hoping here pretty soon.
Is it a priority for them to get the website updated, and we kind of push on this a bit? Because we've always, unfortunately, had to go back to this website not being very friendly for years.
I guess I would say,
and so there's a legacy issue that you had.
I guess I would say how we're due for an upgrade at no cost. Now, if we want it at a cost, we can push to say, here's how we want it, here's how quickly we want it.
Right.
Now, again, that would have been something that would have been discussed during the time when I bring the budget to put that expenditure in if we wanted to pay for an upgrade or expansions to the website.
Fair answer, and I just if there's any way to help with that along, that, you know.
I'm going off the understanding in months ago that we are due for an upgrade at no cost.
Good.
And if it changes, then I would bring it in front of council. But right now, I was told that it's not a cost.
Okay, good, thank you for the response on that.
So would this also be a reasonable thing for us when perhaps put on electronic signage? We're supposed to get, I believe, some fixed percentage or fixed number of minutes that we could perhaps put a very simple scroll on city functions and single liner, ribbon cutting, car wash on Northwest Military, whatever, and that sort of thing. That way people would at least get some kind of idea that these are happening, and or free car wash with a ribbon cutting or whatever. I mean, it's something that would certainly get people's attention.
That's what I'm asking, is it appropriate to put the ribbon cutting, say we're having ribbon cutting for the car wash?
Sure. I mean, it's promoting a new business and in conjunction with our elected officials who attend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The problem with using the LED signs for that is that the return is quite small. We get between 200,000 and 300,000 cars a day down 410 between Blanco and West. And of those, probably, maybe 1,000 are Castle Hills cars.
Right, yeah, no, except for
The intent of the space for the digital billboards is for public service announcements mainly. And that's under the contractual obligation we have with the company that does the digital billboards. So we can put events up there to promote passports or city services, but it's for, again, public service announcements. And so I don't see, if there's an event coming up that the city's having or want residents to know about, then sure, we can put it up there.
I would argue that San Antonio folks' money spends just as well as Castle Hill people's money. If people from San Antonio want to come over and spend money on our tax base for us to go ahead and generate income with, and I personally have no problem with that.
Well, I don't have a particular problem with it. The problem is we have a limited resource, a very limited resource.
Yeah, and how do you
More
sure?
LED is concerned.
And I don't know enough to be able to actually make what is actually worthwhile, what's valuable.
Are we utilizing, the question of that is, are we utilizing that resource to its potential at this point? I don't even know, Ryan, do you have any, we've had signing now for a year or two at this point, are we?
For which in particular?
Are we filling that sign up? Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. But do we have more room to add more stuff for city events stuff on the sign?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I can look into. I mean, like I said, there's only a certain allocated amount of space, and we have up there right now like passports, and we're going to put up the Castle Hills Fiesta coming up in April, and so those kind of things will.
So we're utilizing it then?
Oh yeah, we're utilizing it. So
okay, well then
there's a list that Actually, there's a list that Ms. Dealin had put together before she left to say, here are the normal things we need up on that board annually.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thank you. Let me, if I may, Jack, go ahead, you want to speak.
I was just gonna say one thing. The Castle Hills report, sometimes we see photographs of the ribbon cuttings after the fact.
Yes.
So I wonder if there might be a way to use it a little bit more strategically and somehow have an announcement ahead of the fact or something that might broadcast.
Ready underneath?
If we, yeah, we know about them, but.
Oh, yeah.
Like the ballet school we just did, we had like less than a week to put it together, they wanted it in the evening. So, we know about it, that's not a problem. I was gonna make the comment about that, we do have a group in the women's club that do welcome newcomers. Because we're trying to get women, more active people into the group, and I've been, CHCO has mentioned it, and we've talked about it, having them include when we drop off that little, we just drink, I don't know, we bring them a little thing of M&Ms or something and say welcome. And we get that list from City Hall too, of who's new that moved into the city. And we want to put CHCO information in there as well. And that's been hard, it's just been hard to coordinate. So, I forgot where I was going with that point. But there are things that we're doing that are reaching out, I guess, to the newcomers, is what I'm saying. And I kind of like the idea on paper of a newcomers reception, and I heard you say that you would like to invite some of the businesses to come and maybe do sample foods or something like that, which I think is really great. But we have a very limited number of those kind of businesses here, and we draw on them a lot. We ask them to come to the mayor's picnic. We ask them to do the snow day that we did. A lot of them do like the opening party for Fiesta that we have. So I don't want to overwhelm our businesses either, if that makes sense.
Well, we've got a number of smaller businesses that don't pass out free food. And I understand that we do call on the food service vendors of one kind or another to come and participate in all of the other activities. This would be for general businesses. And I'm thinking about the playland, the tennis shop down there, the bicycle shop, the high school music shop, and so forth who could come. And if there's a restaurant that wants to bring their menu, I think that's fine. If they want to provide snacks, that's great, but I don't think I intend to ask them to do that. I think this is an opportunity for marketing and not an opportunity for them necessarily to come and make some kind of in-kind donation to what we're doing.
I like that. I think that's a little bit more
Having
easy.
them just drop off coupons with their names on it.
Yeah,
would be something.
coupons is a good idea. I think it works because so many of them don't get used. But can I go off topic for just a second? Here's my vision for Castle Hill. I would love for people on the other side of town, or downtown, to look at each other when they're opening business or beginning to put up a new shop or something of that sort and say, hey, do you think we could get an office in Castle Hills? Hey, do you think we could buy a house and live in Castle Hills? Great location, great climate, great ambiance, whatever. I'd like to have Castle Hills thought of in those terms, rather than some of the things we've seen on Channel 12.
No, I think it sounds good. I guess, what kind of like specifics would you need from the women's club to do that?
Well, the women's club is already doing the newcomers reception, as I understand it. Is that not right?
No.
I understood that you did one at some time.
We do, they're talking about when we do our membership meeting, the very first one in September. That's just for new women to the women's club. I mean, we do it for everybody. It's
Well,
kind of kids on the
I
year.
think that the newcomers reception would be certainly an opportunity for the women's club to solicit membership, to get them to know the new members, get them familiar with the club, and make them interested in joining the club, joining the women's club, and being active in community activities and so forth. I think it's an opportunity for the Castle Hills Community Organization to do the same. I think it's an opportunity for local businesses to come in and make themselves known to the newcomers, and an opportunity for the newcomers to become part of the Castle Hills community, which they might not otherwise do. If you go and look at what happens when people get to a certain age, is they tend to cocoon and turn the TV on, buy TV dinners, stick them in the freezer, and they don't interact much anymore. And that's a problem for a community that wants to be participatory. If we want to have that kind of community feeling, we've got to have a community where people actually get out and talk, and where you get to know who your neighbors are. And it's difficult in towns nowadays when everybody is in air-conditioned comfort in the summertime and never goes out in the yard, and never goes to see the neighbors. And you may get to see a glimpse of somebody out picking up the newspaper in the morning, but that's about it. And without a closer community, we're not going to have a community feeling among the citizens in Castle. That's just my feeling.
Well, and I agree, and I mean, you see that like when we do a concert in the park or something like that, which is something that CHCO is striving to do.
Yeah.
But they have a limited budget, and so getting that information out, people go, I didn't know that was happening. Or when we have the bands in the park, people going, they do that? They don't, and I don't know how to get them that information.
No, I've tried using Nextdoor for these meetings, among other things. And I get no response, no interest, no response. It's difficult to be able to get participation if you can't get some kind of interaction with the citizens. And I'm just looking at the first place to get interaction is a newcomer's reception. That's just the way it looks to me.
I mean, does this kind of,
Let me go ahead and reel us back in a minute. And you're exactly right. So
could I add just one very quick item to what Clyde was saying?
Sure.
It sounds like in some ways that there is perhaps a need to have these organizations here form perhaps in concert with each other and other organizations. Perhaps it's like a simple welcoming committee. People go knock on a new person's door, bring them some coupons, say hello, this is who we are.
That's what the Women's Fund does.
And okay, we never had that when we moved in 5 years ago, so I didn't even know that this even existed. So you know, we were not knocked on, our door was not knocked on.
Well, the only thing we do is bring like a little treat and an application for the, or a note saying if you're interested in joining the women's club. We're trying to get the CHCO to also provide us with something that we can put in there with, to let them know the CHCO exists for people. Because I mean, their attendance is, their membership is down as well.
It would seem logical to have all these organizations that you all represent here to kind of, you know, form just a simple welcoming committee to say, hi, I'm your neighbor, and here's some free coupons here from our car wash people and whatever, and would you like to go ahead and join our club? Or something like that. I mean, if it's already being done, I apologize. We never had.
Not to that extent with coupons and things like that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark.
Sorry for getting off or on top there.
Oh, no problem. We're all out here. So one of the things I kind of reserved comment, I wanted to go ahead and share this too. One of my thoughts in regards to this agenda item. And what I believe, and I'm taking what's being put down here and kind of put a little spin on it, is our businesses do not have a real voice in this city. And I think it's one of the reasons we have a bad rap going forward. We've had in the past, I'm going to say, we've had a bad rap against businesses. I think that has somewhat minimized, but we haven't gone above and beyond as of yet. And so I don't know if the Women's Club has any sort of way to help. It's just something we got to do over time. But that's why we talk about maybe a Chamber of Commerce, a pseudo Chamber of Commerce for this is idea generation here at this point, is to give these people, these owners who are, they're part of the city, they're part of the core of our city, a voice for council agenda items, for other things that impact them. And we just don't have that. We have never had that, to my knowledge anyway, for the businesses that support our tax base to have a say or a participatory role in city business. And I'm looking for a way to help have that happen also for us. I mean, again, I'm taking a little bit out of context here, but I'm just asking for that too. And the Women's Club may be a way to help put that initial voice out to these citizens, to these businesses as they come into the city, to say, hey, we're starting this organization or something, or you want to join this organization, if the organization ever comes together. So just a thought.
And we've talked about like asking, like we have one lady who's moved her business back into Castle Hills and saying, well, she doesn't live here, but her business is here. Let's make her a member of the Women's Club. I mean, we've talked about why aren't we getting some of these business people that are living right in our city as members, you know? So we're approaching that. I did have a question years ago. We had I don't really remember about it because a mom with 2 kids and not paying attention, but didn't we used to have a thing with Chavano Park where they had sort of like a little chamber of commerce?
Yeah, we had the Capitol Chapel Park Business Alliance.
Whatever happened?
Started. It was a brand, it was pushed by the editor of the local, and John Blank on it, I was thinking. But he was kind of the driving force to help that bind together. And like you said, just kind of, we had several meetings, I attended several of the meetings, and that was, I think that made the emphasis of something that we need, but it just
We
didn't
need
jive, I
some,
think, because
yeah,
of
we need some
differential.
specific here, but I was
Right.
wondering what kind of happened to that.
Right, oh, Mark, it was Mark, last time. But he drove that, I guess.
John?
Okay, so,
So-
thank you, Judy.
Well, we can go back to the women's club and I can kind of tell them what, talk to the board about what the goal is, and see if maybe that's something that a committee could take on, you know?
That's a
We
great
could
idea.
ask about that.
Would love to participate, maybe skip it, participate, if we could have that conversation.
I'd be happy to talk to you anytime about it, if you want to spend some more time on it.
And I can talk with, because I also work kind of with the CHCO and talk to John about if there's something more that we could do together, because I know their time is limited and if we're already sending out those welcome packets, we could have them join too. You know, it would be good if we took the welcome packets, you know, we've never done that. We could take them to the new businesses, I just thought of that, and have some information in there for the businesses.
Sure. Let me go ahead and move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Brian's put together a draft business letter. Ryan, can you comment?
Yeah, John, as I mentioned in previous meetings, that I had already started to compile a list of our businesses locally. I, as city manager, identified the need early on to sort of establish a business retention program. I'm pretty familiar with this in other cities where I've worked in, especially related to economic development, where we had a business retention model that was established for businesses to reach out to the cities for potential needs, services, expansion, workforce training, those kind of things. So this is kind of a fundamental type of concept I was putting together already before we started discussing this. So I have here a list, I won't pass it out, but it's kind of a working list right now with all the businesses and the type of businesses, and I have a contact, and the ideally was kind of further what we talked about with this group is spurring this on, and you can see in my letter here that this is just a draft, and I would ask if I could get the copies back, because I'm still working on it, but this is kind of what we're at right now. We're reaching out to them to let them know that we're preliminary stages of starting sort of a business retention and expansion program, obviously to build a stronger business community, letting them know why we need some type of partnership with the business community, why we need to grow, those kind of things. And then I kind of mentioned here that we want to assist and ensure your business flourishes here in Castle Hills, and obviously if it succeeds and grows, our local community strengthens, those kind of things for sustainability reasons, because at the end of the day, having more commercial businesses, more sales tax supplements our property tax, and so on. And they go hand in hand. And then again, as part of this program, the city is looking to partner with the local community organizations such as the Castle Hills Women's Club and the Castle Hills community organizations to spur on community engagement by hosting welcome receptions and hold quarterly forums to encourage networking in the business community here in Castle Hills. Ultimately ideal to initiate a business chamber of some sorts for our local community. So I'm just going to send this out and kind of see if I get any response or any feedback, and that way we can work to tie it in with our organizations to see if there's some type of forum or quarterly forum we can do to have some type of exchange or networking type to see if any businesses need assistance, or try to continue to map out a membership type system for our businesses in our community.
So Ryan, you said you're going to move forward and
Yeah, I was already in the process of doing this. I mean, early on when I got here, because I had identified the need to do this with our business community in Castle Hills. But I'm going to continue to do this. So I'm just kind of, I wanted to show a draft to you all because again, this ties into what we've been talking about with the Castle Hills Women's Club and working on putting together some type of forum
I like the idea of a forum. I think that's, we were calling it business alliance, a business chamber,
Yeah.
a business forum.
Yeah, and I can tweak it to however you want. I mean, I like business alliance, and I've seen some other cities where they do have an alliance with the cities and some type of organizations, and they don't necessarily have a chamber, but it is in a sense the concept of a business retention and expansion program for the city and the community.
Okay. I believe it's good.
And is that what you have, Brian? You done?
What's that?
Are you done on that point?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to suggest perhaps that we table this item forward, pending further discussions between the Women's Club and our members and Mr. Rapley with regard to the business community, pending further discussions.
I'd like to discuss real quick, but I think something like this, go ahead and move forward independently, as far as we notify the businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do need to have this discussion again. I would concur with that, but I don't want to slow Ryan down on moving forward.
Mr. Rapley can proceed with this without any input from our committee, and certainly doesn't need our permission to do it. It looks like a good idea to me. It's something that needs to be done. I commend Mr. Rapley for being proactive in preparing a letter for him.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to
If there's a
encourage
motion, I'll
him
second.
to proceed on his own schedule.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to table this for further discussion to the next meeting. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll give you all the final copy when I send it out. I just want to make sure I have everything today.
Yeah. Judy, Ryan, thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting
We
us.
would like to speak.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Do you want to talk to me? This is at 5. You want to talk to me? That's fine.
Thank you.
All right.
I think, John, just on that point, just real quick, in my experience in doing economic development in other cities, is sometimes that you forget about the business retention side. You're so focused on the attraction part and trying to recruit a company or a business to your city, but sometimes that alienates the existing businesses who need help.
Right. I can understand that too. Always got to maintain your customers.
Yep.
Okay, so move over to agenda item number 5, discussion of possible action, any decision made during the city council meeting on February 12, 2018 meeting. To my knowledge, that item was pulled.
Yes, so I have 2 items on the agenda for the council meeting. I pulled both of them for various reasons. Item 9 here is one of those reasons.
So it's on a roll there.
action on this item.
So, yes, that's correct. So move forward. Okay, item number 6, discuss possible action on bus traffic stops, congestion study, engineering contributions, submission schedule, and related matters. We have a lot of meat on this one to discuss, and so we'll try to be as efficient as we can. We're also approaching that deadline of 11:30 for the next meeting, so if we can,
I'm going to move through these pretty quick.
right, so again, Skip, let's see here. Do I have a motion on this? Because we're gonna have some possible action, so.
I move that we discuss and consider action on the MPO traffic congestion action.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, multiple seconds, Skip, go ahead.
All 30.
Okay. The submission schedule is between March 22nd and April 1st. We have to have our submission in by those dates. Training is set for February 21st, which is Thursday this coming week. There are 2 sessions. One begins at 9:30 in the morning and runs probably until about noon. The second begins at 1:30 and runs until about 4. You can go to either one. You don't have to go to both. I intend to go to one of these on this Thursday. I'd like somebody else to go as well.
We're jumping here, I've already threw my name in that previously, so I'd like to go to that morning session also, but I know we're on the next agenda, I'm not sort of.
I think we had kind of an agreement here that you two were going to be the trainees here. So I don't know if it was like an official movement or whatever from the council, but I think we kind of agreed that y'all were probably the best qualified.
Okay, on the congestion study, I pretty much have concluded from looking at the traffic and analyzing what I've seen that the buses are not really much of a factor in the congestion at the intersection of 410, Jackson Keller, and West Avenue. The buses don't seem to have traffic piling up behind them. The only exception might be school buses during the time when the school buses are coming up Jackson Color or going right down Jackson Color in the afternoon. But when they're coming up, the line of traffic at Jackson Color and west heading northbound is 30, 40 cars, buses and whatnot, all the way down to a quarter mile or so past beyond the intersection. When they stop, but it doesn't last very long. The problem with the intersection coming north on Jackson Color is that it's 2 lanes. When you get to West Avenue coming north on Jackson Color, there is a right turn option and a left turn option. If you go left turn, there's no left turn lane, you stop in the traffic lane, and you have to wait for traffic to clear so that you can cross. If you're going to right turn, if you're happen to be behind the bus, you have to wait for the bus to clear the intersection before you can make a right turn. So the obvious conclusion is that you might be better off with a right turn lane. The problem with the right turn lane there is that the street belongs to the city. The right of way where you might put a right turn lane, the street belongs to San Antonio, that city, not our city. And the property where you might put a right turn lane there belongs to Castle Hills. It's in the HEB parking area, or just short of the HEB parking area. So that one we might be able to.
So it's actually entitled to us and not HEB then?
I'm sorry?
So that little strip of property there that's there on the right-hand turn lane, that's in our title, basically Castle Hills itself?
I think it's part of the Castle Hills right of way. We'd have to look and see exactly where the right of way is.
It would be the end, it would be the end of the turn, the beginning of the turn would be part of the San Antonio easement.
Well, once you make the turn, it's Castle Hills.
Castle Hills.
Before the turn, it's San Antonio.
Right.
Okay.
So there's multiple entities involved here to make something like that happen.
So the only thing to do there is to see if we can coordinate with San Antonio and VIA to see if we can get some assistance with that. Mr. Rappen has already.
I've already contacted Leroy and seeing if we can facilitate that.
To see if we can talk further about it. The other place where we have a traffic option is at the intersection of West Avenue and the 410 eastbound access road. West Avenue headed north. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, so Steve was leaving us on getting this started, and so I've kind of tried to work with Skip. I've also been working with Mr. Rapley on it, and I know he's worked with TxDOT, some of the engineers from TxDOT, and some of the other supporting entities. Ryan, I'd like to go ahead and discuss. I know I've kind of leaned on you to move this thing forward with the upcoming pending submission date for this MPO project. And Skip, you've been wanting to get with Janine and get some information back to us also. So if you could go ahead and go over what this is, how you got this diagram, and what it's going to take to get a submission to the MPO. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Right here is just a preliminary sort of rendering or drawing that one of our engineers came up with pretty quick. And it's obviously just something to show today, but they would work for us to put the entire package together on whether it's data or calculations needed for our submittal to the MPO. Our engineering firm who did this would kind of package it together and finish. But this is just for today as a rendering. And then, as I mentioned, I sent it to you and Councilman McCormick, a gentleman who is a former colleague of mine, who's the assistant district engineer at TxDOT, who's helped me a lot since I've come here as city manager. He provided everything we need to know and what we need to do to coordinate with TxDOT on this corridor, because this is TxDOT corridor here. And so, in a sense, we'd have to partner with TxDOT, and then there's some requirements that they would have to do. Also, we'd have to do an advanced funding agreement with TxDOT to move forward, ultimately to submit to the MPO.
So, knowing this is, there's multiple entities involved, MPO, City, Castle Hills, and in this case, TxDOT. And the majority of it, based on what I'm seeing, is within the TxDOT easements or TxDOT right-of-ways too. Do we know what hoops we've got to jump through at this point? You alluded to them.
Yes.
But is TxDOT, is their first first inclination in favor of this? Was there, are you getting?
Oh, no, he responded to me, I mean, basically saying, sounds like a good project, and that, his two engineers who are reps for the MPO, would be of assistance. They could also help address any specific questions. If a local government has an MPO project, there is some type of local match, which we probably already knew that. We would probably require an advanced funding agreement with Castle Hills to allow your contractor to work in the right of way, he says. And of course, we would need to review plans related to roadway and signal modifications. And then he just says, I'm not sure how the bidding process works off system projects. Meaning that we do have to bid since it's through the MPO, or can local government bid, but his two engineers would help facilitate us through this project and submittal to the MPO.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone in the committee familiar with or feel that Mr. Radley is explaining what the process is and what we're trying to do here? Okay, Skip.
Like I said, John, no, this is just very preliminary on the layout here. And they just put this together so we can see it today.
Right.
But they would package it for us.
They would, okay, and this is what I want, some kind of driving this to at this point, is I want to go ahead and put this before the March, which I know you've already mentioned too, for the March City Council, on March City Council, to go ahead and get the City Council buy-in to move forward on this type of project. And obviously looking for agreement from this committee, but
we have to vote on a recommendation one way or the other. One of the problems with this project and with the CMHP study is the Congestion Management Air Quality Program that MPO has put together, is that it is a reimbursable project. And that means that the city has to come up with money on it. It may be a matching fund, it may be a reimbursement program, it kind of depends on how they evaluate the project. But we need to have an estimate for the cost of this thing. And we need to take that to the council because we're looking at spending perhaps a significant sum of money of the city's tax money. And so we have to have a pretty good handle on that before we go out to spend that money to know what we're committing to. I have the application forms here if anybody wants to look at them. They're available online. And
you want copies?
And it's going to be a heck of a project because those little spaces that are left there in those blanks are intended to load up with lots and lots of items, paperwork and stuff that you have to put together to get your project considered. However, I think this project has merit whether or not it goes into this program. And I wouldn't have a problem going into the technical review board and making a 3-minute presentation to try to sell this idea for them to include in some future project. I think that Textile is interested enough in the intersection 410 and Jackson Keller and West to take some steps. They listed it as one of the top 100 most congested intersections in the state. And it is a problem. This one?
Yes.
This intersection here, I mean the intersection, that triangle, Jackson Keller West 410, that little triangle is one of the 100 most congested intersections in the state according to Textile. And it is one of the most accident-prone locations in our city. So I guess what I'd like to move on is a preliminary recommendation to make a recommendation to the council at the next council meeting to participate in this program to include this project pending, that's to say pending on our ability to get a valid or a reasonable cost estimate by the time we make that recommendation to the council. And we may have to do it in a special meeting after the council.
Mr. McCormick, just so you know, the engineer who works for Dale Pica, who had replied and who I've been working with, he just mentioned that TxDOT would have oversight role in every MPO project as TxDOT is the pass-through agency for the federal funds. As part of the current, call for projects, in which we've already talked about, there is a required workshop that will go over these types of items in greater detail, which is the one on Thursday.
February 21st workshop, that's good.
So he basically also says in regards to the specific project, that they would probably want to visit on the details since we are currently studying that area for traffic improvements as well. We would want to ensure the efforts are synced up. And do you have any drawings or something that we could send us? So at some point, maybe you and Mr. McCormick, I can facilitate a meeting with this engineer and even Dale at some point so we can make sure we're all on the same page.
I think that'd be appropriate. Can we get that done? I mean, what we want to do is kind of compress this so we get all these, everything lined out, so ready to go for the council meeting. And very please, like Mr. McCormick's suggestion, that we can have a cost estimate, a preliminary cost estimate available for that meeting.
And as Councilman McCormick had said earlier about the intersection further down, as we talked about just a minute ago, the thought process was I had contacted Leroy from VIA to see if helping to facilitate between the two entities being us and San Antonio because of the bus stop and so on. He asked me what kind of timeline was, and I said, well, we're submitting obviously for this intersection. And I said our timeline would hope to be in conjunction with this. So again, as you're going through the movement, facilitate the movement through the entire intersection through 410. So that's what I told him as far as what we were looking to do. We'd hope to align that intersection and that right turn lane at some point with what we're doing with this MPO project. Okay.
We'll be guys on the case, I guess, at that point, so.
Might as well be coordinated efforts.
I think Mr. McCormick made a motion.
I made a motion to make a recommendation to the city council that we be allowed to submit this project to the MPO as part of the CMAQ project, providing we can get a reasonable estimate of cost before we make the submission to the city council.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Mr. Sanderson?
The rest of us
Indisposed. We still have a quorum here, so all in favor? Okay, thank you. It passes unanimously.
So ideally, as you said, Councilman, is to get a cost for.
We will need an estimate of probable cost for this project to be able to present to council, and obviously all the hoops you guys jump through to get to that point. And I think as expediting a meeting between us and your contact would be very appropriate, especially with TxDOT at this point.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
I can do that. And then I can actually have them work on this over the next few weeks to give us the full package on probable costs and what this will look like.
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Everybody here on this one. Okay. We're at here. Next agenda item. We've already discussed essentially agenda item number 7. That's Skip and I are looking at attending. Move forward to the next one. Agenda item number 8.
Jack and I on Monday and Tuesday went to the grant writing class put on the by Grant Writing USA. And it was a 2-day program, very good program. Jackie?
Yeah, I thought it was great myself, Steve. Not only did they talk about how to write the grant itself and some of the details of that and how you justify your project and how you provide data to back it up and things like that, they also provided opportunities to find some of these people that have money, whether it be the federal folks or state folks or rich folks as they're called. I thought it was very valuable on that score. The fellow did comment, Andy, something or other was his name, he did comment that finding money for this kind of thing, for the infrastructure kind of thing, is a little tougher than doing a research thing or something like that. But anyway, there are thousands of potential grants out there, and so we just need to go through them and find those that might apply to what we want to do. But I thought it was a great course. It posed a couple of logistical things that we probably need to think about as a committee and the city. Suggested that a 501c3 or nonprofit would be a good way to go after this money. And so that's something I think Skip has already been talking to the city attorney about that in terms of the 501c3 and the wisdom of that and just how to go about it. But anyway, the short story it's a terrific couple of days, and I think well worth the time and the money the city spent. Thank you, Ryan, for setting that up for us.
One of the points that was made in the seminar was that private foundations generally will not make grants to anything except 501c3 organizations. The government's a little bit different, Corps of Engineers and whatnot. We're looking at some things there. I think Jack is looking at some of those things in a little bit more depth. But in order to really compete for private funds, foundation grants, we need to establish a 501c3 entity to take advantage of that. Problem is that the 501c3 entity, the way they're set up right now, is not going to belong to the city. It's going to be an independent, nonprofit, charity or charitable foundation. And Mr. Radley has been authorized by the council to explore that further with the attorney for the city. I think that's about all I've got.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Skip, and thank you, Jack, for that. Okay, agenda item number 9, discuss some possible action on committee membership and attendance matters. Skip?
Okay, we had talked about this before. What we did not do last time is to have a proper vote on it. And so we did it in the Parks Commission, and we thought we had done it here. But when I was writing the minutes last time, I discovered that by golly, we had not done it here. And so we need to consider that and take a vote. My motion in the Parks Commission was to the effect that we adopt the procedures established for city council membership, in that the seat of any member who is absent for 3 consecutive meetings without prior coordination or a medical excuse will automatically be considered vacant. I make that motion now.
Okay, so Mr. Montgomery's made a motion. Do I have a second?
Can I second it with a potential amendment?
We'll have discussion.
Okay, discussion, okay, yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, go ahead.
So the potential amendment would be basically to provide that we do notify, people of the change, that we attempt to notify the folks that might be involved with the change that occurred. So, if a person is considered to be dropped, then we need to go notify them we have a new policy.
Absolutely, yeah, I think, and as a courtesy alone.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer it as part of the amendment, so that way that it becomes part of the kind of the ethos of the thing. So we say, okay, this is the rules, everybody now knows about it, and give them the opportunity to follow the rules.
Okay, can you amend your?
Yes, I'll accept the amendment.
Okay.
Second the amendment and call for a vote.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's get this call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, thank you, Skip.
Okay.
Okay, agenda item number 10. Hold on a second. Let me back up before we move on to agenda item number 9. There was an item in here. This would fall under, and I apologize. I should have said this, but we also talked about retasking the dissolution of this committee. This would somewhat fall underneath that.
I've got another discussion, do I, guess?
You do.
Well, I'm the cover.
Okay, well then we'll move forward on that. That's fine. Agenda item number 10. Skip.
Okay. When we created this committee, we set it up with the idea in mind we were focused on MPO and MPO grants. And the fact is that what I put in the enabling document was enabled us to look outside the MPO. So we've done a lot of things like the Parks Commission and so forth, which are not really part of the MPO, but the council approved them, and that's fine. So what we have now is we're looking at submitting this application for participation in the CMAQ program in April, and that pretty much ends what we have available for the MPO right now. I sent around yesterday evening, and I think I got it to everybody. If I didn't, I think maybe Mr. Rafton had it left off inadvertently somehow, but I'll send you one this afternoon, Ryan. I sent around a copy of a report that Mr. Joyce provided. It's a report from Texas A&M University.
That attachment never made it to my email, unfortunately.
It didn't?
Yeah, and unfortunately did not make the attachment. I have reports from previous, but it didn't make it on the email. So I don't know if
I'll send it around again.
It's a good
Okay,
point.
you stated, here's the report, and unfortunately there was nothing there, so I looked around, I thought maybe it might have been taken from my server, but I wasn't
But
sure.
that's not my first mistake.
That's right.
So, at any rate, we have an idea what I'm trying to do. There's this 206-page report written by Texas A&M students in the master's program of urban planning, supervised by a couple of professors. And it is a very good report. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and food for dozens and dozens of other projects. So we're up for retasking or dissolution in May, because we're an ad hoc committee, we don't go on interminably. The question is whether members of the committee want to continue, whether we think we're doing something useful, and whether we want to suggest to the council at some place down the way that we be retasked as perhaps just a plain project committee, and go forward and maybe use that as part of the basis for finding a series of new projects to focus on to try to do something good for the city.
Do we have any kind of planning or projects committee currently as part of the city makeup?
There is a process. I mean, the council has from time to time gone out and done things like the master plan that Mr. Clinton and Ms. Scott did last year, and done things like this Texas A&M report, which was done 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. And the problem is that when the council turns over, there is really no good mechanism for corporate memory to provide the history of where we've been to the new council members, to give them an opportunity to go back and say, hey, we've already done that, let's not do it again, let's use what we've got here and press on, instead of wasting our time, spinning our wheels, repeating past work. So, to that extent, the project committee could be a source of corporate memory or an opportunity to bring that corporate memory forward to the new council as they're constituted, if the members want to do that. So we don't have to make that decision now because it's not on the agenda for action, but we do at some point. It looks like we're getting down to the point where we're about done. Any other new ideas?
That's good, thank you for that idea, and I think we need to put it on the agenda for potential for next time. And so I believe we need to make a decision of how we want to continue to help out. I think we've actually have a great group here too, so I don't see.
Yeah, and if I may, guys, I'd like to say that I would like to have open the opportunity to continue to pursue grants for the drainage thing anyway, the streets thing anyway. I hate to see that just shut down. If this committee, as you see, will allow that, I guess it does. Then fine.
I think that notion there of corporate memory is well taken. I mean, if you have some set of committees, if you will, that are basically have a really limited lifetime, then you don't get an opportunity to kind of advise newer folks, whoever they might be. And so, I mean, giving, I think that's, I never even thought about it in that fashion really right there, as having a kind of a more persistent body right there, still serves at the pleasure of council, but yet is a need to kind of hold that memory right there. And I think it's a great idea. I think we should pursue that, and hopefully next week we'll have a chance to develop that.
Just in passing, I'll point out the Texas Open Meetings Act makes it almost impossible to do membership without having a formal formal meeting. And it's impossible for 3 of the council members to get together and say, this is what we did 2 years ago, and we want to talk about that, without having a formal meeting. And you can't you do it in a workshop and then you try to go back, but you've got to list each of the items that you want to talk about, and you've got to have a quorum, and you've got to do all that. If you don't, then you may be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And there has to be some way for us to keep track of what we've done in the past that we ought to keep doing, what we've done in the past that we haven't followed up on, and we ought to get on with.
Things we've done in the past that are not worth doing. So, I mean, the things that are a waste of time, sure.
So,
Okay, Sid, thank you.
Probably both.
Is there any other ideas you want to bring up at this point? And if there are, keep it very brief. Okay, no other ideas. Okay, we're done with that. All right, under old business, we have a work session on previous project concepts, including congestion, drainage, walkability, and others. There's an identified project for further work on. Any discussion on that at this point? point, and you kind of picked up pretty good.
I think we got you.
Okay, thank you. Over to item number 2. And the members' opportunity to make any announcements.
None from me.
Okay,
None for me.
okay. Skip. I'm not usually.
I don't have any announcements.
Okay, thank you. Agenda number 3, announce the date and time of the next meeting. So we're meeting today on February 16th. The next Saturday at this point would be
March 16th.
March 16th. Interesting. I do want to say that for some of the families that is around the spring break time frame, I know my children, or one of my children will be on spring break during that week. But it's something we can't try to adapt. So any suggestions on the date? 16th is
Should we try the previous Saturday?
which would be the 9th.
My birthday.
What would be a good birthday present?
Yeah, man, what a gift.
I want like real birthday present.
You get to bring the cake and the,
One of the things,
just
The cake in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So, you better believe it.
Yes, John, 16th is spring break, so. 16th is spring break, so, I mean, that,
Yeah, I have no problem with the 9th. That's not a problem for me.
one of the things I need to bring up before we make a decision on that is, Mr. McLean mentioned to me the other night that Saturday morning is difficult for families and children. It may be, I don't know, plain fact is that we have very little attendance here from the public. The question is whether we want to look at it, and tonight during the week to try to do this, or whether that would be reasonable for those of us who are members on the committee. I'm pretty flexible, but I don't have any small children. I have no job and no visible means of support. We are all jealous.
So when they're really small, like 5, and they're not in school, it's actually pretty flexible, right? I mean, they're make sure to get in school.
so ideally, you're everything we want to be at some point.
I would probably unfortunately counter with, for me, Saturday is a very good time, Saturday morning, for these types of meetings.
Is there any reason why we can't alternate, or maybe do like once every quarter, we have a weekly evenings, like Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock or something like that, on a quarterly basis. So that way it gives opportunity for folks that might not be able to make a Saturday morning, they can make it on an evening during the week.
And that's what I was going to say, we do need to jump back and forth on it. And so if we want to try a weekend, I think it would be worth a try, just if we can get attendance up, we're going to see some value in that. And so I'm very open to that. I would say not the week of the 11th, that's okay, that's spring break. At least for my kids, I'm not sure, Castle Hill's a school year round, so they're different. Okay.
So we're at Castle's Christian school, and I don't even know if they even have spring break for elementary school kids. They probably don't.
Well, is there?
Or I'm sorry, preschool, so he's not preschool, sorry.
The previous week would be the week of the 4th. Is there any, or the following week would be the week of the 18th? Is there any time frames or days on that?
What is the?
Especially the council meeting the second Tuesday,
Second Tuesday.
which would be the 12th, all spring break, of course.
So what are the traditional dates here for spring break this year? I mean, who is?
It depends on where they live.
First 2 weeks of March, is that kind of where it's at?
Second, maybe third week, maybe.
Okay, second, third, okay.
But, do we want to go for, I would not suggest Friday. I would probably say either a Thursday or maybe even a Wednesday would make more sense.
What about Thursday the 7th at 7 o'clock p.m.? That would be the first week.
May I suggest 6:30, a little earlier, that's okay? Because we'll probably do both meetings and it may run long, if that's okay.
So both meetings would take us until when? Probably about right from 6:30 to 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6:30. Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not so early that we end up disinviting some
Right.
portion of the public at large, give them enough time to eat dinner and drive up here.
It does match the council meetings also, so.
Right.
That's-
The only problem with that is that that's during the time when the council's preparing the agenda and getting that all posted. It's a little bit of a problem, but if I could get some help with our agenda, well, yeah.
You got 2 agendas there.
See there, so I can get some help with our agenda in a minute, that would work.
Ron, do you think if we want to go ahead and move this on for the Thursday, March the 7th at 6:30, is that going to overload staff? Because we got to have the room available, like we have court that day. Always
Oh,
consideration.
we have,
Court is that day,
but it's during the day though, it terminates like 3 o'clock in the afternoon though, doesn't
That
it?
sounds really long.
Let me ask Tina.
They're here till 5, 6 o'clock sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, a lot of tickets.
Or we do it Saturday, and then the next month do it.
Yeah, I think that having it like once a quarter during the week would be good, and that way we could,
There is court, and typically, as Tina said, that the last weekend of a Thursday of the month is the best time to have it on a Thursday night, because court is the first 3 Thursdays of the month.
The first 3 Thursdays?
Yeah, so there is court March 7th
Okay.
so they don't get done here till 6:30, sometimes 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, now, we just do Saturday that week and pick our next meeting.
Yeah, plus that week there's a zoning meeting and then there's ARC, the previous night, so,
Okay.
for me, I mean, attending both, I mean, Wednesday and Tuesday is ARC and then zoning on Wednesday, so.
We may want to have 2 meetings in March anyway, because our submission date was the 1st of April, so if we get to March 7th and we're working on this paperwork, we're going to probably need another meeting to get the paperwork done, and get the application together, and get the council approves the submission.
Okay, so I motion that our next meeting is on Saturday, February the 9th.
is that March 9th?
Correction, March 9th, thank you, at 10 a.m.
Okay. And then could we also follow that by the 28th as well too? Which would be the last Thursday of the month? And that would be, and if we wanted to do additional meetings, that's what I thought I heard, is that we want to do additional meetings because that MPO stuff is kind of getting a little bit close from the schedule.
And I think we could probably do that at our next meeting unless somebody wants to go ahead and do it today. I mean, but we wouldn't be looking at the 28th, so you might want to think about that.
That's all pretty quick.
And if we want to go ahead and make that now, so that way we would give folks enough warning, so we do it with less warning, I'm not sure that's,
Mark, I think that's an excellent idea, so let's go ahead and you want a motion for the 28th?
I'll motion for the 28th and the 9th.
Okay, so we're taking the 28th at 6:30 p.m.
And 10 o'clock the
Do we
9th.
have any conflicts on Thursday, March the 28th, Brian? You know,
Is that the last Thursday of the month again?
is
It's the last Thursday, that's fun. There's no other meetings like,
But isn't that coordinated, you said?
no, it's not court.
That's the one day, one night he doesn't have full
Yeah.
work, so.
Okay.
So, and then, no, I think there's a BOA that week, but that's on, Tuesday, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we have, let's see here, I'll put it down, I won't remember it.
We have March 9th at 10 a.m. and March 28th at 6:30 p.m. I think that's Mark's motion. It hadn't been seconded, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of those two meetings? Okay, great, unanimous. Okay, call for adjournment.